This is Eleanor LeCain. You know, we're all going through a lot of stress right now. We got the pandemic, we got the economic depression and job loss. We have racial strife and reckoning. We have pervasive trauma, and it affects all of us to some degree and some to a great deal. How can we heal from trauma in our country? Our guests today are actively engaged in addressing this important issue. Our guest for the first half hour is Dr. Marty Casey, founder of the UnGun Institute. Our guest for the second half hour will be Milagros Phillips, who will talk about healing the racial divide. First up is Dr. Marty Casey, founder of the UnGun Institute, who works to release trauma from violence in the mind, body, and soul. She has dedicated her life to helping people heal from trauma. Her work ranges on disarming trauma in individuals to healing collective trauma through events which plague the Black communities. Dr. Casey has co-created the global observance of Black Sunday. An inaugural event took place this August with over 100 global networks and over 50,000 viewers engaged in creating action plans to rebuild and uplift the Black community. Dr. Casey was chosen for the cover and celebrated as one of the top 25 2020 most influential businesswomen in St. Louis by the St. Louis Business Journal. She has also created the Show Me Arts Academy, using the arts to heal, particularly with children. Dr. Marty Casey, welcome to All Together Now.
Thank you so much for having me today, Eleanor. It is truly a pleasure to be here with you.
Yes, wonderful. Well, I heard rave reviews of you and your wonderful work from my friends Noelle and Bob. And I'm so excited to have you on the show and to learn more about you and the incredibly important work that you're doing. So maybe you could start us off. I know we first spoke early this morning and you were on your way to a great adventure. Can you tell us, what was the action today?
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to Noelle and Bob, who are they are such great people. And so if they love you, I love you. That's for sure. They are wonderful. I actually literally within moments just arrived back from a huge event that we have here in St. Louis. The Caravan of Unity is virtually traveling around the world. And today it stopped in St. Louis, Missouri. So we had two major presentations. One was the presentation that I did presenting the peace poll, or a peace we experienced 6 years ago after the murder of Michael Brown, the 18-year-old Black boy who was shot and killed in the streets. And so we are still dealing with, as you spoke about in the intro, we're still dealing with that trauma and the effects of what we witnessed, what we heard, what we saw, what the media talked about. And of course, anytime you add differences of opinion, you have individuals that feel one way because they really are truly in support of law enforcement, and I get that. I understand, because we do need our police officers to protect and serve, but we don't need them to show up and to kill us when we are innocent. And so then you have situations where the families and the communities, we're like, we should not keep witnessing these things. And so when you have those differences of opinions, that causes a divide. And when that divide happens, that just increases the trauma on top of the personal trauma that you may be dealing with, as you spoke about COVID-19. And we have an election that's coming up where we're divided on those issues. So we're dealing with a lot right now, mentally, physically, and spiritually.
Yeah, what was the purpose of the caravan? What did you hope to have come out of it, and who was involved, and what did you do?
So the Caravan of Unity, it speaks for itself. It's traveling around to unify our communities and our world, and bring us closer together, to find the things that we have in common, and to be able to accept and love each other more. And it was really a fabulous event, as we presented in Ferguson, and then we had a presentation with another good friend of mine, Pookie Lee, and she did her presentation at the Arch, which is our known monument in the city of St. Louis. Not the golden arches, that's somebody else. We have one big silver arch. And then we had a river ceremony. So it was just really beautiful. It really was. And to see so many people come out, we were all within the guidelines of COVID, and, keeping our social distancing and all of those things. And, but it was just good to gather, and to gather for, a reason that says, we want to come together in these streets to love, not to protest, not to, respond to some of the horrific things that may have just showed up in our backyard, and racially, and motivated by other negative things that divide us. So it felt really good today to be on the Caravan of Unity. And guess what? As soon as I finish with you, I jump in the car and I'm on my way to Chicago, because I'll be singing at the Dubai in the morning, as well as presenting UnGun in Inglewood, Chicago, who is also a city that is struggling with senseless gun violence.
Right, big time there. So, well, I'm so excited that you're doing that. It's so important to create these occasions for people to come together. And I've been impressed watching the recent, Black Lives Matter and the protests in the streets. I've been impressed with how peaceful most of them are. They're 99% peaceful, and then they get a few troublemakers in. And I'm sure there's instigators brought in to cause trouble, but I've been impressed with the peaceful nature of it. And I've been also very impressed with the multiracial nature of it. I mean, like 50 years ago, when Martin Luther King was marching for the rights, it was very heavily Black with some support of white. But I'm looking at these pictures, and it's just so exciting. I mean, I'm getting chills. I'm so excited that, whites and Asians and Blacks and everybody's coming together saying, this is just wrong. As Americans and as humans, we should not be harming innocent people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're one race. It's the human race. That's who we are. There are some things that uniquely can separate us, in the sense of, as I'm looking at your beautiful face, and you're seeing me. Well, your eyes may be one color, my eyes may be another, and there's different aspects of who we are and how we uniquely show up. But why would I not love you? Because I can't see that our noses are shaped alike. That's crazy to me. I love the fact that I love you because your smile is beautiful. I love you because you have some friends in common that I have that we both have friends in common. And that we have to start really looking and finding those things that connect us, not disconnect us.
Right. Absolutely right. So true. So you have actually dedicated your life to this. And so I want to hear more about the UnGun Institute. In my understanding, that's your kind of most recent kind of institution that you've created, and you want to help people heal from trauma. Tell us, what is the UnGun Institute, and what kind of work do you do there?
Well, let me tell you first how it came about. I was a person that struggled with trauma my entire life. I came from a dysfunctional family where my father was an alcoholic, and he was very physical and verbally abusive to my mother. And seeing those things happen, it lands somewhere. And it's what I call a trauma bullet. Every time my father would put his hands on my mother, I would feel it. I experienced something that I couldn't really put a name to at that time, but I'm human. I could feel it. And it just was destroying the inside of me. And so by the time I entered high school, I had already attended 10 different schools by the time I was in the ninth grade. That's trauma within itself. I can never be anywhere long enough to really maintain good friendships or feel comfortable enough to be safe, because in a few months we're going to move because we can't afford to be here, and now we're going to move across town and go somewhere else. So all of those things were very traumatic. And then my parents got a divorce, and I was a daddy's girl, even though he wasn't showing up treating my mother the right way, but as his daughter, he loved on me. So I was very confused on my feelings, and it was showing up in such a way that hurt people hurt people. How do you think, Eleanor, I was responding to other people? I was angry. I was short-tempered. I was lacking the ability to really express myself verbally, because emotionally I was numb. I was numb. So by the time I got into high school, I had been fighting at another school, got kicked out, and they suspended me 90 days. I knew I wasn't going to graduate on time. And I told my mother, I'm dropping out. She was like, oh, you're not dropping out. We're going to go to another school district. Well, here we go. This is school number 10. So,
Wow.
yeah. So we moved across town, and the schools were night and day. From the school I got kicked out of, the percentage of Black people who were dealing with probably some of the same issues I was dealing with was at least 80% or higher. When we moved across town to another school, here I am, 20% of Blacks, and everyone is of privilege. They're showing up with better cars than the teacher.
Wow.
Everybody has nice handbags, and they're walking through the halls. Good morning, and I'm like, well, what's good about it? You know what I mean?
Right.
It wasn't my life, but it was something different, and it was something. What happened, Eleanor, is that I started to feel the energy that was coming through that institution. And I was responding to that energy differently than the energy that I was feeling when I was in a chaotic situation. So I've always been a person to sing. And my music teacher noticed early on that I had a gift to sing. And she said, Marty, doors are going to open for you, but they're going to close as quick as they open if you don't change what's going on the inside. Because I still had an attitude. I had an attitude. I did. And she spoke truth. And she was the white teacher. And guess what, Eleanor? She and I are still friends and connected today. We're Facebook friends. And the same feeling that I had for my teacher back then when she saved my life is the exact feeling I have now when she jumps on one of my posts and she likes something and she says, hi, Marty, I'm so proud of you. I saw you on the news today, or what. It gives me the exact same feeling, because guess what? She planted a seed. And that seed she planted was a seed of care, compassion, and concern, and it grew into love, and it saved me. She gave me an opportunity to sing a solo at the Black History program, whatever song I wanted to sing. And when I opened up my mouth to sing, the very thing that I had been needing and wanting happened in that moment. I was responding in a negative way so that I could get attention. Because my mother couldn't give me the attention she needed because she was fighting for her own life. So when I sang and I opened up my mouth, now, Lord, you don't have to move the mountains, but give me the strength to climb. Now, Lord, don't you take away my stumbling blocks, but just lead me all around. By the time I finished that song, Eleanor, everybody in the auditorium stood to their feet. Kids I liked, kids I didn't like, teachers that I liked, teachers I didn't like, all the staff, they stood to their feet and they cried and they clapped. And it was in that moment that I realized I wasn't worthless. I was worth something.
That's awesome. What a fabulous story. And how wonderful that that teacher kind of reached out to you and planted that seed of connection and compassion and faith in you.
Yes.
And also how great for you that you rose to it. Because some people, stay stuck in their trauma, and that's what's known and familiar. So even when they're put into a less chaotic and more ordered and supportive environment, they're internally so wounded they can't rise to that possibility in front of them.
Because here's the trick. You have to connect to your natural talents and abilities.
Mm-hmm.
That creation, that opportunity to create is what gets the clock ticking again. Trauma is like stretching a rubber band and then boom, it pops. And when it pops, it disconnects everything, your mind, your body, and your spirit. Well, we're going to tie the rubber band back again. Well, guess what? The rubber band was broke, but we can now tie it back together where it's still functionable. However, we have to be creative with it. Mm-hmm. How we tie it back together. So creativity is the medicine that we use on the inside to help us ungun those trauma bullets. When she put a mic in my hand because I could sing, it opened up an opportunity for me to show up in a new way that I was not able to connect to. And so that's why I use the arts to do it.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So, Marty, I'm wondering, this is such a moving story, and it's so beautiful what you've done in your own life. And by the way, I'm incredibly jealous that you can sing, because when talents were given out, I was out of the line that was for singing.
That's all right. I missed a few lines too, especially that skinny one. I'm like, oh my goodness. Oh, it's closed now.
Right. And I'm wondering, now you've got all this experience from your own personal transformation and growth, and you've been working with literally thousands of people and helping individuals and communities heal from trauma. What advice do you have for our listeners who, every one of us right now, we're traumatized by this virus. We're traumatized by the economic collapse. We're traumatized by this authoritarian president who's like lying and dividing us instead of bringing us together. How do you advise our listeners? How do we personally cope with all this trauma?
I want to share 3 simple steps with you. Actually, 3 simple statements. And this is where it begins for all of us. And this is the I can challenge. I can forgive. I can heal. I can live. When you can do those 3 things, Eleanor, you begin to heal yourself from the inside out, because you have made it up in your mind that the most important person on this earth is you. Only you can live your life. Only you can make the choices that are best for you. We have influences from everybody and everything, from the media to the music to television to the president, or, whether we like them or not, at the end of the day. But how do you choose to deal with whatever it is you need to deal with? And you make the best choices for yourself on how it makes you feel. Mm-hmm. Humans, we feel from things that we touch, things we smell, things we taste and hear, what we see. Those are the natural things that if you tap into those things to make the best choices, you can forgive, heal, and live.
That is so true and so wise. And, it's interesting, as you're talking, I'm remembering this amazing book by Viktor Frankl called Man's Search for Meaning. And Viktor Frankl was a survivor of the Holocaust. Now, talk about trauma. This man lived for 3 years in a concentration camp. He was a medical doctor put into the concentration camp. He lost his parents. He lost his wife. He was the only one who survived in his family. And he came out and he went on to actually an illustrious medical career. He lived to be 92.
Mm.
And and what he says, people say, well, how did you survive this trauma? And he said, I remembered the positive things, positive, happy memories. And I looked forward to what I could contribute. And he said, people need a sense of meaning. And it's exactly what you're saying about, connecting with your ability to create. Like, what are you here to do? And people who had a sense, like he had a sense, okay, my mission is going to be to survive this trauma of the Holocaust. And I will explain to people on the outside when I get out what this experience was and how we can survive trauma and move ahead. And that is a sense of mission, a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning where you can contribute. And you've got so many gifts. You've got your singing, your organizing, your wonderful heart, your ability to bring people together. And, all of us have something somewhere where we can contribute and make a difference. And when we connect with that, I think we can move forward together through all this collective trauma.
You got it, Eleanor. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so that is where I come in with the UnGun Institute method. I help individuals to tap into the ability to be able to do that, because hurt and pain is heavy. But one thing I know for sure, hurt and pain has no color. Has no color. There's no comparison. I have no right to compare that what I'm going through feels heavier or it's definitely bigger than what you're going through, because however hurt and pain decides to land on you is how your body accepts it or doesn't accept it. And so we have to do the work individually. We have to start with ourselves. I can have a death in the family of some, I'm just using an example. I can lose someone in my family and I'm able to stand up and sing at the funeral. Someone else loses someone in their family and you think you're going to lose them too, because they emotionally just can't seem, from the way they're wired, get it together. It takes them months. It takes them years sometimes to start talking about the loved one that they lost. So because we are all wired differently based off of our experiences and what we've been through. So it has to be individual work. It has to be choice. But the one thing that we have in common is our natural senses. What we hear, see, feel, and think, those are our natural senses. And that's when you're able to tap into that. And that's what I help you to do. Then your creativity comes forward. Just like the gentleman you were talking about in the book, he went into sense memory. He took himself, he held on to those memories that were framed in his mind, those things of, I'm quite sure if it was, I'm using this as an example, if he remembered his grandmother making chocolate chip cookies, and he could smell, and he remembered the texture and even the sensitivity of how hot or warm the chocolate chips were in his mouth. In his mind, he was remembering, one day I'm going to be able to taste those cookies again. That's what he held on to.
That's exactly right.
What kept him alive.
That's actually, and he talked about, he said, I remembered the face of my wife. He was so in love with his wife.
Yeah.
And that just the picture of his wife in his memory kept him alive.
Absolutely. And so it's simple things, but life moves so fast every day. We forget the simple things, and we stay focused on the most complicated things that we can possibly talk about. I don't have to mention the president, because at the end of the day, that's so complicated to me. That's so complicated, but I'm going to concentrate on the simple thing. The simple thing is I need to make sure that I get to the voting poll on November 3rd.
Absolutely.
That's the simple thing.
Yeah, vote.
So therefore, when I concentrate on my goals of how I can show up to make a difference, then it connects with what you can do and what others can do. And then next thing you know, collectively, we have all shown up to cast a vote. He's gone. And now that big thing we were trying to focus on and fix, it's no longer a thing.
Right. Go upstream.
Go upstream.
Right.
Yes, Eleanor. So now you see, it's really, it's a very, ungunning is a very simple concept,
Mm-hmm.
but there are proper steps of doing it so that you don't repeat the trauma. You understand your triggers. You know your bullseye. Your bullseye is that one thing that's inside of you that you protect at all costs. And it's what you respond from. I help you find out what your bullseye is because yours is not mine.
Mm-hmm.
But once you know that, you protect that. You can't let anyone hit your center. Oh, they might be throwing darts and bullets all around you, but they will not hit your center because when it hits there, that's when you will respond. And you may not respond in such a way that it will turn out to be a benefit to you. But
Mm-hmm.
once you can protect your center, no matter what you say or do about, I don't respond to that. That's not worth responding to. But
Right.
but 30 years ago, when I was full of trauma, I responded to everything
Yeah. Reactive anger.
because my center was exposed.
Mm-hmm.
I was damaged on the inside.
Right. Well, I don't see any damage now, Marty. I see a bright, shining soul and a beautiful voice. And I so love you and I love what you're doing and I want to support you. So I'm going to ask you this question, which, you can answer as you can now and think about it. But to support you in your work, what would it take for you to have a quantum leap forward in your impact? Like if what would it, what would be the key thing to help really expand? You've already done amazing, expansive work with the children and, all throughout the community and around the country, really. And now you're going to Chicago. But to build on where you are, what would it take to kind of have a quantum leap in your impact in helping our country heal?
First of all, thank you for asking that selfless question. I appreciate you. And I have to say that I have been in my mind throwing pebbles, and it's time to push a boulder into the water. And
Yes,
the,
amen.
and the only way that I believe I can push a boulder in the water is that I have a good team of people behind me so that we can push the boulder into the water. And that happens by they can support in many different ways, whatever is speaking to their heart. If you go to UnGun Institute and you're hearing this broadcast today and you say, you know what, I am a trauma therapist or I'm a trauma doctor or I am a social worker or whatever it is that you may do in your field that you can help train some other individuals in your community that you may be connected to. My goal is to train as many people as I can. So training the trainers will then allow them that ripple effect to go back out into their communities because I can't reach everyone. So we got to do it in this big, massive boulder sense. So I want you to think about that and reach out to me by going to unguninstitute.com and sending a message saying, hey, I think I fit that bill. I would like to be a part of your training sessions that's coming up. And the other thing that you can do, you can send in a donation if you like. That's always good because there's so many people that call and they need services. And in order for me to do this as work, I have to be able to pay for that. And so when others give, then it allows me to show up in the nick of time. I just had someone, Eleanor, called me day before yesterday, I believe it was, and she had tried to commit suicide.
Oh,
uh,
goodness.
3 weeks ago, and she was calling to let me know. And I was able to of course share some I believe some words of support that has helped her to maintain. And right now I'm providing services to her to be available to her to help ungun her. And I can only do that when others support in advance. Another way that you can help is spread this word and who we are long and wide to all. We spread bad news all the time, but do we really take the time out to go, oh my goodness, I just found out about this. Let me tell the whole world. Well, that's what I would love for someone to do today. And that doesn't cost you anything. Only
Yeah.
but just a couple of clicks of the button and a share. So put out a post and say, hey, I just happen to be tuning in today, to the Progressive Radio Network, and I want to share that this lady is doing this work and she needs us to help her push the boulder into the water.
Fantastic. Well, I'm there shoulder to shoulder with you getting that boulder in.
I
And
love it.
I'll
I
do what I
love
can to spread the word.
You're doing it
That's
now. You're doing it now just by having me here on your
ex-
platform. And for that, I'm so grateful. It's such a pleasure to meet you.
what a pleasure. And unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today, but hope to have you back soon. Dr. Marty Casey of the UnGun Institute. Thank you so much for being with us today and for all your important work.
Thank you for having me. Bye bye.
Bye.